Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of The Studio. My name is Adam, and it's time for yet another Technique Talk.
I recall Central Park and fall. Not a shame.
Thank you so much to my studio VIPs, Artifact Percussion, Zero Gravity Percussion, Rob Utomo, Will Flinner, Mallet Lab, Bradley Crowley, and Sean Olsen. Thank you so much for joining the Studio VIP team. And today's featured studio artist is Peter. Thank you so much for your continued support. And if you'd like to become a studio artist or studio VIP, you can go to patreon.com/Adam10, or you can click over here. Welcome back to the show once again. I hope you've been well. It's really good to see you. And of course, I'm really happy to be back after being at Mallet Lab for a whole week. If you haven't already seen all the Mallet Lab posts that have been on my Facebook page or on my Instagram, Mallet Lab was so good. And when I was at Mallet Lab, I uploaded one vlog for every single day of Mallet Lab. And if you'd like to check out those vlogs, you can go to my vlog channel, which is over here. But anyway, as you can guess from the title of this video, today's video is all about pain.
Pain is cupcake.
How can I get less blisters when I'm playing? Or how can I play for longer? Or I'm getting a lot of tension in my wrist. Like, all these things revolve around pain. And right now I'm preparing for a marimba competition. So I'm practicing for quite a long time, every single day. But I'm very happy to say that I don't have any pain whatsoever.
Whoa.
And thanks to your suggestions, today's video is going to be 5 tips on how to reduce pain on the marimba. But of course, with every Technique Talk episode comes the disclaimer. And the disclaimer is, I'm not a teacher at a university, I'm not a professor, I haven't done like years of research on marimba technique, I don't have any of those kinds of fine details about 4 mallet grips or any of that sort of stuff. So as a result, just like all of my Technique Talk episodes, this video is not like scientific evidence or anything like that, and it may not work for everyone, but there might be something that you can take away from this video that will help you out. So I hope it helps. Anyway, before we start talking about the topic of this video, just like every Technique Talk episode, I have a free PDF download you can download. No sign up required, no registration required. It's at adam10percussion.com/download. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a list of free downloadable PDFs for pretty much every Technique Talk episode that I've ever done. And this is no different. Okay, so now the topic of pain. So a lot of people who teach percussion will usually say something like, oh, you're not doing it correctly if it's not hurting. Oh, those blisters on your hands are normal. It just means you're learning. Oh, all of your skin should have peeled off and there should be blood all over the floor. A lot of percussionists out there, if you tell them that you're hurting from your practice or whatever, they will literally say some iteration of toughen up. And I think that's pretty much wrong. I think the approach of no pain, no gain is usually misinterpreted, and people usually think that, oh, you know, my hand's bleeding everywhere and I need like 50 band-aids after a 1-hour practice session. That should be alright. But no, actually I think it's really important to make the distinction between necessary pain and unnecessary pain. So necessary pain is basically pain that comes from fatigue, like things like if your muscles get sore after playing for a long time. Because let's face it, when you're playing marimba, you're doing maybe like 5,000 repetitions of the same stroke over and over and over again over a long period of time. So of course, something has got to give. So as a result, you might get some minor discomfort, like your muscles will start to ache, maybe your hands will start to get red, especially if you're just starting the technique, maybe your shoulders will be a little bit uncomfortable. I call this necessary pain because it's sort of like the pain that you get when you're training your muscles to get stronger. Like when you're working out, you know, when you first lift weights, of course it's gonna hurt because it's like difficult, right? And your muscles are not used to it. But as you get better and you get more used to this sort of pain usually dissipates after a short period of time, and it doesn't affect your performance. You can still go and play that concert, you can still play in that competition, no problem. So whenever instructors or educators are talking about no pain, no gain, I like to believe that they're thinking about this kind of pain, the necessary pain. But the other kind of pain is unnecessary pain, which is pain that is completely preventable, super detrimental to your progress, it stops you from playing concerts, it's just really annoying. Things that I include as unnecessary pain include friction-based injuries. For example, blisters on your fingers, like here especially when you have your mallets in 4 mallet grip, or maybe friction burns in the center of your palm from the bottom of the shaft, rubbing against your hand continuously. Or overtension of these muscles and tendons in your arm because you're clamping up too much, you're tensing, and as a result, it just really hurts for long periods of time.
Hey, that's fact.
And you might think, oh, these unnecessary pains will only last for a short time, right? Like these blisters will heal and skin will go over the top. Yes, but it's gonna happen a lot. And sometimes when you're in a position where you need to be at your top of your game, say like an audition, like a blister pops out, or this muscle gets really tight, that's the last thing you want. And the worst part is, 10 years down the track, this sort of stuff is going to hurt you. Like, if you have like tendonitis, or if you have some sort of RSI or carpal tunnel syndrome, all of these things happen from unnecessary pain. So yes, instead of being called weak or not being tough enough, I like to think of it as if you prevent the unnecessary pain from affecting your performance, you can practice for much longer, you can perform for much longer, stress will be much lower because when you go onto the stage, you know that your fingers aren't gonna just randomly bleed. So yes, today's 5 tips aim to reduce the risk or even completely eliminate unnecessary pain. These 5 tips are S, W, A, P, and S, which is SWAPs. It's like a completely useless acronym when it comes to like describing this process, because SWAPs, I don't think that has anything to do with pain, but if it helps you remember it, then that's good. So tip number 1, S is for stretch. This one seems so obvious when you think about it. Professional sports players always stretch before they do anything. And I guess people think, you know, something like Marimba isn't overly cardiovascular or anything, like you're not going when you're playing it. So as a result, I don't need to stretch, right? There's nothing to prepare. No. Now, of course, everyone is different. Everyone has different body shapes and sizes. Everyone has different levels of fitness. So you might want to focus on different areas of stretching and for different periods of time. But the most important thing is to find something that works for you. Some simple things you can do. Well, starting with your fingers, you can open and close them. Like maybe you close them for a long time and then open them, and close them for a long time and open them. Or you can use stress equipment such as hand grips or stress balls. Hand grips are like $1 or like $2 a piece, and like literally you can use them just to squeeze your hands. It strengthens your grip with your mallets and that sort of stuff, so you don't feel like you're over tensing, and it's a good way to also feel better after you play. Like I like to do this after I play so that my fingers don't go like like this is literally the worst thing you can do.
There's not a star in heaven that we're breaking free.
It's just terrible because it means you're doing long-term damage to your joints. Then when it comes to wrist stretches, you can do simple things like wrist pulls, where you basically put your hand in front of you and you pull it back, and then you put your hand facing the floor and you pull it back. Like these sort of things are just simple wrist stretches, and if you do them maybe 10 times a piece, you're good to go. Arm stretches, we all know arm stretches like the T thing and this thing and this thing. Like we all know all of these stretches, so give those ones a shot. Shoulder stretches are really important because shoulders sometimes get hunched up like this and you end up looking like a hermit. So it's always really good to just roll your shoulders a few times to relax yourself. You'll find the benefit almost immediately when you get on the instrument. You'll just be like, oh.
Hey, that's facts.
So yes, take some time out of your practice, maybe 10-15 minutes max of just stretching time to just relax yourself and just make it more enjoyable and more comfortable for yourself to play for long periods of time. Okay, so that was S. Tip number 2 is W, and W stands for wiggle. So the term wiggle overall for me just basically means doing some warm-ups with the sticks in your hand or mallets in your hand. But the actual wiggle exercise that I came up with is something that I always do before I play, whether it's at a concert, a practice session. Like I'll always do this wiggle thing because it kind of alleviates my nerves a little bit. The way to do your wiggle exercise is to grab your mallets or your sticks or whatever, get them into the grip that you normally hold them in, point them downwards in a 45-degree angle so they're kind of like pointing to the floor but not completely vertically down. So at this point your fingers should not be touching the mallets very much. They should be touching it almost like zero, to the point where they're almost falling out, but they shouldn't fall out because if gravity is available where you live, then the mallets should stay in your hand. Anyway, now that you've got them in this position, all you have to do is wiggle them up and down using your wrists and your fingers. So don't use your arms, don't wiggle your entire body, but just wiggle the mallets up and down. Very, very small motion. Do this a few times. Do it maybe like 20-30 times before you start playing. And then you'll realize when you get to the instrument, that same wiggling motion is how you do your strokes. And by doing this over and over again, you start to rely on the mallets and the sticks more rather than yourself. And as a result, your entire stroke becomes looser, and when you multiply that by 5,000 or 10,000 strokes per practice session, the pain is a lot less. So if you have any problems with tension, especially with 4 mallet grips, try doing the wiggle a few times and see how you go. Tip number 3 is A, which stands for absorb. Now I know a lot of professionals and students like to tape their mallets, and I know a lot of professionals and students who don't like to tape their mallets. So it's a bit of a personal thing, but I think anything you can do to absorb the shock from the instrument going through the mallet is good. When you put tape on your mallets, not only are you stopping it from slipping out of your hands if you have really slippery fingers, or if the weather conditions are not so good, or if you're just nervous, but you're also stopping the shock from going down the shaft and into your hand. Yes, you will still feel some of the shock, but if you ever try holding a mallet that is taped and a mallet that is not taped, and you try hitting that mallet like 100 times in a row, you'll feel much less discomfort with the one that is taped. Guaranteed. That being said, once again, I know that taping is not for everyone. I know some people like to be as close to the mallet as possible, but if you're feeling like you're getting fatigued really fast, maybe taping your mallets is a good way to alleviate that. I have talked about this on the show, so if you want to see my episode about taping mallets, it's over here. But actually, I'm thinking of doing a brand new taping tutorial because I have a few new tricks that I learned about taping really fast from some of you guys. So if you'd like to see a brand new taping tutorial, let me know right now in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. The fourth tip is P for protect. Okay, so right now it's World Cup fever, everyone's watching the football. What does the goalkeeper wear to protect himself when he's making these ridiculous saves? Gloves. He wears gloves. So I don't really know why on percussion it's become customary to have the biggest blister on your finger. Like, what? But a lot of the good players I know that are like super good have no blisters on their hands at all, or have never had this problem before. Sometimes it's because their technique is just revolutionary and they just avoid the problem altogether, but other times it's because they use protection. So yes, I have made a video about this called How to Stop Getting Blisters on Marimba. It's over here. But basically, a lot of people use a lot of different ways of getting around this blister problem, such as electrical tape or band-aids. A popular marimbist told me once that they use sports tape. Now, all of these methods are totally fine. Whatever works for you is good. So these gel protectors, which are usually used for protecting your toes from abrasion or blisters of any sort, these things are super cheap. They come in massive packets. You can get them from a pharmacy or from a sports store. Cherie's got me these from a sports store in Hong Kong, and they were super cheap. It also means because of the additional gel layer on the underside of these little protectors, that again, it absorbs the shock. Just like in the previous tip, it absorbs more of the shock. You can play for longer. So nowadays, whenever I play marimba, I never have any of these abrasion-based injuries. It's just comfortable. So yes, if you're getting blisters continuously, please do something about it. It is not normal. It should not be encouraged, okay? There is always a way around this sort of problem. So maybe this is your solution. And tip number 5 is the simplest tip of all. It's S, which is slow down. Okay, this tip is probably the most generic of all of the tips because it doesn't require you to actually do something tangible. Rather, it's more of a mindset, which is to slow down. There seems to be this culture nowadays of doing things as fast as possible. Like they don't feel adequate if they haven't learned all 6 Bach cello suites within a week, all memorized, all fully performance ready to go, because this guy over here, who's like 12 years old, has already learned pretty much the entire Bach repertory in one day or something. Like, I think it's good to aim high, but I think a lot of people's pains, whether it's physical or emotional or mental pain, literally comes from going too fast. Whether it's playing too fast, learning too fast, making goals that are just unrealistic. So, slow down. Simple examples include, like, no matter how you learn your music, whether it's one note at a time at tempo or all of the notes but at a slow tempo, do it slowly and your muscle memory will be much more developed and you won't feel so tense about everything because you just know it. Other examples include what we said before about warming up. Take time away from your practice time to warm up. I know some people only get like an hour to practice at most because of restrictions of their school or the instrument or whatever. That's totally fine. But time taken to warm up and to stretch and to literally prepare yourself for playing is not time wasted. It's time that's invested in making you able to perform for years and years to come. Another example is to not compare yourself too much to people. So for example, if person X is doing so much better than you and they're learning like pieces 3 times as fast as you and they're playing pieces that are well above your level, but you guys are the same age or whatever, that doesn't really matter. Like, you don't know what that person is doing. Maybe they don't have to work. Maybe they don't need a job. Or maybe they have an instrument at their house. Or maybe they're just really good at remembering things. Everyone is always different. So just because your way of doing things is slower doesn't mean it's worse. And one final example I can leave you is, of course, always remember to breathe. Whenever you're playing, always breathe, because if you don't breathe when you're playing, the whole thing becomes kind of... So yes, everything in the world is always going very fast all the time, and it's always important to take a moment and just slow down. So I think as blasé as this point is, it's always good to keep this mindset in your head. So yes, these are my 5 tips to reduce pain that is unnecessary. And again, if you'd like to download the PDF that has all of these tips on a nice big poster that you can stick anywhere or give to your friends or your students, it's at antanpercussion.com/download. Anyone can download this for free. It's gonna stay up there forever, just like all of the other handouts. So yeah, go ahead and download that right now. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it so much if you would share this video with any of your friends who are experiencing pain, because I am not an expert by any means, but these tips are literally just things that I learned as I was playing, and they are really, really simple things. Like, they're not complicated, you don't need to spend hours figuring out how to do them, and they make a world of difference. So if you think anyone needs that help, make sure you share this video with them. And if you have any suggestions on anything you'd like to see on the show, whether it's more Technique Talk episodes like this, or more tips, more hacks, more DIY stuff, or more mallet reviews, or whatever, let me know in the comments below right now. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers. I think I will do a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but I'm sure it's gonna be something worthwhile for you guys. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, make sure you hit that red subscribe button below. Make sure you keep up to date with the notifications, because every time I upload, it will send you a notification so you know when to expect the next episode. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode of The Studio. Good night.